welcome to another edition of Baker Forward. Today, we're talking about learning. Probably the most important thing that builds any city into what it becomes is our school system. And Baker Forward is all about Baker, and Baker has a great school system. And it has a superintendent that is in charge. I'd like to bring him on the show right now. And please welcome Mr. Dr. Brister to the show.
Great to be here.
Oh, pleasure of mine. Where are you from?
Well, originally from the state of Mississippi, but most of my career has been in East Baton Rouge Parish School System.
And how long have you been director of the schools here?
Since June 2015.
Has it been a tumultuous 2 years, or has it been pretty easy?
It's been a journey, but it's been a great journey. It's rewarding to do the things that you do for young people and children in the city of Baker.
Tell the people at home, the first thing on their mind is going to be the flood. What kind of damage did your school system in Baker sustain with the flood?
Well, as you know, you probably aware, it really took out our high school. Fortunately enough, we had capacity around the district to move the high school kids to another location. But the community as a whole stepped up and really performed a yeoman's job in getting us back as soon as possible. So kudos to the parents and the students and the faculty and staff on making a turnaround in about 72 hours to get us back up and running. That's a tremendous effort by the city and all the first responders and so forth to support this great city.
What kind of damage did the high school sustain? Let's talk about it first.
The damage to the high schools, that was substantial. We don't expect to get back in that high school for another 18 months. We've done all of what we call the emergency work, getting all the asbestos and mold and so forth out of the facility. North Star is pulling out. In fact, they pulled out on yesterday. So we're at the point now to bring some architects online and get into the permanent phase on the restoration of the school. But the damage was great.
They had just completed a renovation of the gymnasium, historically, right?
Oh, it was a beautiful gym and renovation of the auditorium. We lost the entire gym. Of course, you know, when you have that fine wood on the floor and water get on it, it's going to buckle. Most of the damage in the auditorium was down around the lower level where the water settled. And of course, you get mold and mildew and so forth. And all that's been, you know, eradicated. So we're ready right now to start the permanent work and let the community see, look, things are taking place. It looked like nothing is going on, but you have a time period to make sure all of the mold and so forth is out, and all the code violations are taken into consideration when you go back to do the permanent work.
A lot of people watching lost their homes, and some of them had no insurance. What was the school system position as far as insurance?
Well, we didn't have flood insurance. Of course, the district was not in the flood plain.
Of course.
So going into the restoration project, we really have to pay at least $500,000 toward starting this thing to move forward. Even though we was not in the flood plain, we still have to come up with that. You know, that
is that money going to come out of the general fund, or where does the money come from?
Well, I wish it could come somewhere else other than the general fund, but it have to come out of our operating budget. And I like to say that going forward, FEMA and GOSAF have performed great relative to getting us all the information we need. They've been very accommodating on providing staff and guiding us through this process. You generally hear some bad things about FEMA, but I can tell you from our point of view in the City of Baker School System, the support that they've provided has been great out of the governor's office.
There's been a lot of things in the news lately about the money coming from Washington to help, and of course the governor went to D.C. several times and solicited money. Is any of that money going to impact your school directly?
I would think so. Of course, there's a process you go through with the assessment and so forth on exactly what need to be repaired or replaced. As a superintendent, I don't foresee any snag in that particular phase. I think most of the money allocated for public facilities, I think the state has already received those grants. So just a matter of working through the paperwork, dotting all your I's and crossing all your T's to make sure you do it correctly. Because FEMA can come back years down the road and audit your books, and you want to make certain that you did everything proper and above board.
Let's talk about the personal impact of the flood. First with the teachers and the staff. How are they coping with it? What did you see as far as their strength in dealing with this disaster?
Well, there was some grief. We held one or two counseling meetings to deal with the grief. But for the teachers and staff to put their personal issue aside and begin to educate children and do what's best for children, you can't help but commend individuals like that to put their own personal needs aside to step in.
A lot of businesses don't realize how many people you have employed at the school. How many teachers are there and staff?
Oh, teachers and staff.
In Baker.
We're somewhere around 250, 300 people.
No, I'm talking about the staff that works for the school. That were
If you're talking about teachers and you're talking about
custodial, how many
staff,
people?
We're about 200 people.
200 people.
Total.
Out of those 200, do you have any idea how many lost their own homes?
I don't have an exact figure, but I can tell whether those teachers were in Baker or in Baton Rouge. And many of them had to go back and forth to work through their own homes and restorations. And that was a challenge for us. And
last thing on their mind would be the school when they've lost their own home, of course.
Oh, absolutely. And let me say this, the teachers and staff understood that these teachers have personal needs. They have their own homes and their own things they need to take care of. So we allowed the staff to go and come, and we just had to get together as a family and just support one another through this process.
Sure. Okay, talk about the kids. How did the kids take it? Did they like the free vacation and playing in the water?
Well, they didn't get a whole lot of time off, so but they were a very resilient bunch. And many of them just stepped in, particularly from our band and athletic department, and actually helped us to relocate from the high school down to the middle school. And many of the teams actually went in and started assisting families with some needs and cleaning up and getting stuff out of their houses and so forth, which you have to commend students to step up to do that. But as far as getting back to the business at hand of getting a good education from the City of Baker school system, they came back like soldiers.
Well, when we come back, we will talk more about the school system and its plans for the future. And I think that everybody is starting to kind of get over the flood. It's been several months, and they're starting to mentally get past it. Physically, I think everybody's still got a long way to wait. But you stay put, and you folks at home, you stay tuned. We'll be back with more of Baker Forward in just a moment. Hi, welcome back to Baker Forward. I'm Dr. Fry, and of course we are talking about the Baker school system. Plus we're going to talk about Baker in general, some cool things coming up with buffaloes or something, I believe it is. We're going to find out more about that with some other guests that are joining us right now, of course, along with Dr. Brister from the school board. We also have with us the mayor, Darnell Waits. So we'd like to welcome you guys to the show. Yeah, and he's already been here, so he's an old timer now. Right. We've been visiting about the school and the flood and what had happened with the school and how long it took for the kids to kind of be adjusted and stuff. You had a point you wanted to make about the school as far as when the school was going to reopen. Right. Is that one of the things you wanted to tell us about? You got an idea?
Right. Well, the speed of all of this is predicated on how quick the school board members and so forth and their leadership allowed the superintendent to have some express power to move quickly. This could not have been done unless the board kind of released some responsibilities on things they had to vote on and say, look, guy, take it and run with it, do the things you need to do, stay within procurement guidelines and so forth. So kudos to our school board members. The anticipated time for us to move and get kids back into their normalcy is probably around 18 months away. And the reason for that, we just put out our RFQ to hire an architect to come in and start giving us some remnants of design on how we want the school to come back up. I want to put to rest at this point, there's no discussion out there about tearing down Baker High School. At this particular point,
those are just rumors?
Those are just rumors.
Or wishful thinking?
For some, perhaps wishful thinking. But the legacy behind that high school is a very rich tradition. So this will not be taken lightly. There will be time for input. There will be time for the board to come in and actually look at several designs on how we're going back into Baker High School. And that's a process. So I can assure the community they will not be left out of this process, and the board has guaranteed that they'll be involved in all of that design.
I think there's a lesson to be seen from Estruma.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a school that was totally abandoned. Everybody wrote it off, tear it down, whatever, and it's going to be the shining star of the entire city, it looks like.
Yeah.
Oh, that Baker High School, I think, is a landmark for the city of Baker. And the tradition is rich, and I don't have to tell you guys, that's a very rich tradition. So you just don't discard that history. You have to be very mindful of what people have contributed to that institution. But we're about 18 months away. Our high school kids, they're anxious to get back into their high school.
bet.
But we,
kiddie pool.
oh yeah, we had to move them to the middle school, which was big enough to accommodate the population. And then we had to move our middle school into, of course, Baker Field across the track on South Street. And then we combine our two remaining elementary schools at Baker Heights. So everyone at this point comfortable, but not where they want to be, but at least they are comfortable, and instruction and so forth can continue.
One of the things I wanted to ask you is, we've lost a lot of businesses. I mean, there are businesses, there's some eyeglass lady that left town, people that aren't coming back. Did you lose any teachers?
Not to my knowledge.
Wow, that's great.
And that's a good thing. I think one thing the public need to realize, we all share teachers. We have teachers from East Baton Rouge Parish working in Baker, teachers in Baker working in East Baton Rouge Parish, people in Central work. So when one system get impacted by something like that flood, the whole greater Baton Rouge metro area, of course, would be impacted as well.
Sure. You had a question here I wanted to address. That can you tell me what the city of Baker can expect from the school system in the coming months as far as STEM, strategic planning, pre-K?
Well, we were into our strategic planning process prior to the flood. So we've started that dialogue back with our facilitator to actually begin to map out what the community and what parents would like to see for the city of Baker school system. So that is a process that we will push across the summer months. Get community buy-in, survey, and so forth, just to find out, hey, what's good about the city of Baker school system? What are some of the things you like to see changed? What are some of the things you like to see discontinued? And just your general perception on the quality of education you believe the students in this city are receiving from us. So that process is starting over again. We had a lot of data going in, but we need to go back out and get some fresh data. As far as the academic and so forth, pushing into the school year, we really went into Baker Middle School trying to make it almost a paperless school. So we instituted Chromebooks across the entire campus. That was something to see because our students were more adept to technology than our teachers were.
Oh, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
The teachers were kind of behind the curve, but it's something that you just have to do. Technology is not going away. And we have to embrace this with our students and move forward with it. That's exciting, and we plan to continue to roll that into next school year. That was the first pivotal stool, if I may say, of pushing our STEM initiative into Baker Middle School. The technology piece, the science piece, and of course engineering and mathematics. That will be a focal point for the city of Baker school system for the next several years. I would like to congratulate and give a big thank you for our parents. Baker Middle School actually gained students this year, and that's a plus.
That's a wonderful thing.
That's a wonderful plus. So we're doing things to make certain that, one, that your kids are safe, they're secure when in our care, they will get a meal when they're in our care, and try to provide them with the best instructional teachers and cadre that we can put together. We're into a redesign phase for Baker Middle. We'll get some extra dollars from the federal program, and we'll begin to improve on what we've already started at a particular site.
I know the mayor has been on the show before, and we are always driving home the point that the city cannot grow without a good school system.
Oh, no
It's
doubt.
the number one reason people move to an area is for the schools. And Louisiana as a total has a very bad reputation for education. Do you feel that you feel that Baker is going to be on a course here to become a real shining star?
Well, this is the key. The economic viability of this city rests on how viable and how valued the school system
Oh, absolutely.
exists. If we have a quality school system, then that permeates into tax dollars, it permeates into people buying homes, it permeates to young families moving to the city. But you have to have a viable school system to begin that draw. I'm impressed. 2015, we were about 1,200 students. My last view into the data, we were somewhere around 1450. That tells me one thing, that we are working toward doing what people want to see. We are moving into a zone where parents are comfortable with their students attending the City of Baker school system. And we are getting some local and national recognition on some of the programs that we're putting together, i.e. our band. An outstanding job in Dallas last week, right. First place in the symphonic band. Basketball team made it to the Elite Eight. Beta Club convention a few weeks ago. So you need to involve students not only in academics, but you have to involve them in extracurricular and co-curricular activities too. And that serves as the front porch, as you would speak, to attracting families. Hey, we're doing something great. Your child will get a well-rounded education. Give us a look, give us a chance.
When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation about the schools, talk about some things coming up here in the city, and also ask another question that I think everybody wants to know. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Baker Forward. Welcome back to Baker Forward. I'm Dr. Fry. Of course, with me is Mayor Darnell Waits and the wonderful person in charge of our school systems here in the Baker area is Dr. Brister, and we appreciate him taking the time to be with us today. I want to jump over to real quick to the mayor. You have something you want to talk about, a job fair, which he's educating kids to get into. What's coming up?
Well, on May 18th, we're doing, this is the second time we've done this, we're doing our Baker Job Fair for North Baton Rouge. And the reason that we wanted to do this is to give the kids and the young adults in this area, in the north part of the parish, an opportunity to take a look at businesses and give the businesses an opportunity to showcase themselves here. And the date, we picked the date because the seniors from the high schools are already out of school. They're just waiting to graduate during that particular time. The first time we did it with no budget, there was 300 people there. So we're looking for a lot of people to come through this time. And it's going to be a great time. It's going to be held at the Municipal Center down at City Hall, and it's going to be from 11 to 2. We will have refreshments, but it's going to be a great deal.
And what was the date again?
It's going to be on May 18th.
Okay, you can't forget May 18th, folks. That's the day after my birthday, okay? So we know you're going to remember to be sure and get involved in that. Speaking of the job fair, what's the school system doing to prepare kids to be job ready?
Well, a couple of things are taking place. We have, of course, a state new initiative, been out for several years, about Jump Start, where youngsters are actually getting trades in industry and exposure to some of the things that may be required at the job fair, i.e. soft skills, something in commercials, cuisine, welding, pipe fitting. Those are some items that our students really can get what they call career endorsements on their diplomas. Along with that, just preparing kids to be able to go into either 2-year or 4-year institution, which all requires superior reading skills and math skills to matriculate, whether you go into the job market or into the military, or to a 2-year institution or a 4-year institution. So we constantly have our ACT prep going throughout the year. We have credit recovery going throughout the year to make sure students graduate in their cohort and graduate on time, and graduate sufficient enough to be able to go into the job market and produce a valued employee to the companies, not only around the city of Baker, but any place on the planet that they may like to go.
We need the kids to make money so they can pay more taxes and bail this state out.
That would help us.
Speaking of that, I mean, everybody knows that the state is in financial whatever you want to call it, underwater more than the flood. So with that, is that going to affect the school? How do you see the budget process affecting education in Baker?
Well, currently, the board, they are acutely aware of maintaining a balanced budget and being fiscally responsible for taxpayers' money. We covered several weeks ago on anticipated budget cuts that we may fear from the state. It appears that maybe the legislator may end up moving toward increasing the amount that we have to pay into teacher retirement. That may go up 1%, and a 1% move in that particular category can easily amount to over $500,000 to $750,000 to a system like Baker. In addition to that, health insurance is always a biggie for us. We're going into negotiation probably in 2 or 3 weeks with our health insurance carrier to see whether or not we can hold the cost steady. Last year, the board decided not to move this cost on to the employees. So we were in a little bit better financial shape last year to absorb the cost. I feel that we'll probably be in the same financial shape this year. Of course, that's predicated on how well we can negotiate with our carriers to keep the health insurance at a minimum going forward.
Going back to the budget process, everybody hears on the news all the time that they're cutting higher education. Funding for higher education, the TOPS program going away. How does that actually affect the Baker school system?
Our budget come out of what they call our minimum foundation fund. And that's the allocation that Betsy allocate toward all the school districts and all the students across the state. Currently, it appears that our minimum foundation fund will stay flat, but there are drains on the public school sector around vouchers, charter schools, and choice and so forth. So you have to be able to compete for these dollars, and you need to be able to compete for students to maintain your budget going forward. For the last 2 years, we've been competing fairly well.
What percentage of the kids in Baker go to a private school or a charter school, a non-public school?
I can give you the amount of money we probably losing as a result. Is probably $1.3 million a year toward tuition.
Money aside,
Money aside.
In one sense, could you tell people why they should reconsider private school and come back to the public school system?
Well, the public school system is just that. We don't discriminate. We don't pick whoever come up to the door. We're going to provide the best education possible with the resources that we have. Your public dollars fund the City of Baker school system. If there's an issue or concern with the City of Baker school system, you have a board to go to. You have some repercussion. You have some protocols to go through to get what you need. If the superintendent Bristol can't solve it, then you have elected officials to hold me accountable.
Right.
I hold the staff at the school sites accountable, and I hold my executive team accountable.
Right.
You deserve that. Your tax dollars deserve that.
Your children deserve
And your
it.
children deserve that. And you deserve to hold us accountable for spending your money correctly. And you deserve to be able to come and see exactly what we're doing with those dollars.
In closing, Mr. Mayor, is there anything you'd like to say, anything that we've left out on you?
Well, I'm glad we did this. I have a lot of respect for Dr. Bristol. I truly, truly believe that he and his staff and the board are working hard to advance our school system. It's a great place to go to school. It's a great place to live. I think his leadership has proven that already. And whatever I need to do to make it easier for him, I will do that.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being on the show.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll be on again in the future, okay? Thank you for watching Baker Forward. Until next time, stay tuned. There's a lot more coming up.